So today we're going to be responding to this article that appeared in the Byline Times. And if you want to go read it yourself, you can do. And I very, very much encourage you, again, to go do, like I say, go check out the Byline Times. The title is The Idea to Overhaul the House of Lords That Politicians Aren't Talking About. And here we go again. I know, because you guys know I'm all for reforming the House of Lords. I think it is, and I think should be, the biggest issue that we as progressives and people on the left should go after, because it has a really, really big proportion of people, especially on the right, who want to reform the House of Lords as well. And I've said this before: if you allow the people on the right to reform it, and we on the left ignore that, or don't, or decide to not have a say in it, or should we say make our voices heard, if that ever happens, then what we will eventually get is a second chamber that is massively set up in favor of the Conservatives. And you have to ask yourself, do you really want that? So first of all, that just goes to show you how important we should be really involved in getting involved in reforming the House of Lords. And I'm really glad that this is hopefully going to be really tackled, again, according to Keir Starmer. Certainly by the end of the first year, they're going to introduce what they intend to do about the House of Lords. Now, I want probably a more concrete solution, but that's also another reason why we need to start talking about this. Certainly, as myself, a Labour member, should certainly start, putting out the idea, hey, we need to reform the House of Lords. So, as we've said, the House of Lords is probably it's the second, I'd say, most important area when it comes to our democracy. It is really important. It is really, really important. And the thing is, the House of Lords is pretty much predominated by people who basically just happen to be born and then get a say in our democracy. As you've seen very recently from Boris Johnson's honours list, and potentially the upcoming Liz Truss honours list, you can basically just be put in there, as in one case, even if you just happen to work for Boris Johnson for 6 months. So this House of Lords is not really that good. And I know some people are going to say, oh, but Lord so-and-so is in there, or there's Lord so-and-so. That does not excuse the vast majority of Lords who are in there who are not very good. This is something that needs desperate reform, because there are even bishops in there who get a say on our democracy. And technically, you can claim that the UK is actually part theocracy, because we have a large selection of bishops sitting in the House of Lords who get to make political decisions on our behalf. And once again, they're not elected, shall we say, to be in there. Once again, the arguments for reforming the House of Lords are incredibly varied. Not only that, but if you are appalled at the amount of scandals that have come out in around Westminster, well, you probably don't want to look at the amount of scandals that go on in the House of Lords, because you might want to make sure that at least you are sitting down before you decide to Google that. Hence why, as you can see, Michelle Maloney, again, Baroness, sitting in the House of Lords, just a prime example. One of many, many lords who are sitting there who are completely and utterly ridden with scandals, and yet they get a say on what goes in our democracy, and we have absolutely no recourse for getting rid of them from the House of Lords. So ultimately, I am on the same page with the people who wrote this article, that yes, we do need to reform the House of Lords desperately. And I have said it needs to be a second sort of elected chamber. I've expressed before that it should be certainly elected by PR. I think that would really change our democracy. That will really give a boost to the PR movement as well. And it should be very much a regional identity. So maybe you would have, maybe you might not have Yorkshire, but maybe you might split Yorkshire up into like its 4 different parts, and every region has like I don't know, for the sake of argument, let's say like 4 candidates they can or at least 4 spots they can fill from that area. And again, you'd elect it by PR, so you would get certainly a lot more different types of MPs in there. And I think it will be good overall for our democracy to have that. And the idea that's being put forward today, or at least the idea that politicians aren't talking about, is the idea of a citizens' assembly. Now, I do not disagree with citizens' assembly, and we'll get into what a citizens' assembly is in a moment. But I do not think that making the House of Lords a basic permanent citizens' assembly that gets to have incredible power and decide on our democracy is a good idea. So some of you might be asking, well, what is a citizens' assembly? Well, essentially, a citizens' assembly is probably the most recent example about the climate change. We had a big citizens' assembly about climate change. In fact, Gordon Brown himself is conducting citizens' assemblies to decide what happens with the House of Lords. So ultimately, it's quite funny. But the best way to describe a citizens' assembly is essentially jury duty. You get chosen at random. Now, there is they don't say how you get to choose that at random, but I'm guessing we might do it at jury duty. It's just a random lottery, pick them out, pull them out of the hat. And again, I don't think that is good. I do not think that if we are going to have a reformed second house, that it should be basically chosen by lottery. I do not think that will be a very good idea for a large number of reasons. First of all, um, I don't think there would be a lot of people, because we've seen, even in jury duty, you've seen people turn down jury duty, not because that they can't do it, because they don't want to do it. So that will be a big problem. Do you then pay these people? How long are these people then, selected for? What if that person's got a family? What about their job? If they're going to be away for, I don't know, 4 years from a job, can they keep their job? There's so many questions in and around this of a citizens' assembly being the perfect way to reform the House of Lords. I just do not agree with. Um, Ultimately, I think reforming the House of Lords, yes, but to make it a permanent sitting citizens' assembly where you just get to randomly choose people from the United Kingdom. No, absolutely not. I think this would be a very bad idea. And to be honest, I think, and I'm going to call them out for this, the people who sort of um, did this, who already organized citizens' assembly. So the people who wrote this already organized sort of different citizens' assembly. And again, I've got nothing against citizens' assembly. Knock yourself out, go for it. I think they can be a good function in the democracy, but not for a second house. And because they're an organization that organize Citizens Assembly, this was done to about a select group of about 2,000 people. They then upscaled these results. And you've got to remember, they're already pre-choosing from people who like and want citizens' assemblies. So if you had, and again, I don't know what the selection of this was. I don't know if it was, how would you reform the House of Lords? If it was just a blank question, then okay. But if it was, here's multiple choice, and oh, by the way, here's citizens' assembly on that list, with sending it to a mailing list who already massively agree with citizens' assemblies, or at least like citizens' assemblies, I find the methodology behind this pretty sus. And like I say, you can actually see how they did it at the bottom. And again, of course, they extrapolate it to the rest of the population. So they say, oh, about X amount of people would be in favor of this. But here's the thing, that's, as you admit at the bottom of this article, you admit that you've extrapolated this to the population of the UK. I find that a bit naughty, to be honest. So I really do not think that this is should we say, as good as an idea as I think people think it would be for a second house. I don't really think if you were to do a proper survey on, if you were to go around asking people, would you reform the House of Lords, and you weren't to, spoon feed them the answers, I think you would definitely get that people wanted a proper second elected house. I don't think you would come out with a citizens' assembly. That's for sure. But Anyway, like I say, let me know what you think of this down below. I am completely against replacing the House of Lords with like a permanent, randomly chosen, Citizens Assembly. I don't think that would have uh, ultimately very good outcomes. To be honest, I would far, far, far more prefer a elected second house, and of course, my preference would be for PR. But like I say, let me know what you think down below. And of course, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button. There's the Pony Club down below. There's the Buy Me a Coffee link and all that good stuff as well. So as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.